The EZ952 is a serious television, in both its design and its menu settings. It's also the most affordable member of Panasonic's OLED family. OLED, for those unfamiliar, stands for Organic Light Emitting Diode and is an alternative to LCD displays. It also, more importantly, lets them deliver absolute blackness because the pixels can be switched off completely. It used to be really expensive to get an OLED TV, £10,000 worth of expensive for some TVs in 2013, but happily, the price has come down considerably since then. So, enough of the past, let's look at the present. When you turn on the EZ952, you're greeted by Firefox OS, the operating system that runs on all current Panasonic smart TVs. It offers almost every on-demand service you could need, or will do, when Amazon services are added in July. Firefox is clear and simple to use, but it's not as flashy or as well integrated as the LG and Samsung operating systems are, feeling rather like a piece of software bolted on the top of Panasonic's own menus. For navigation, you get two remotes, a large clicker and a touchpad remote. While the touchpad might be the hot new thing, there's no school like the old school. The clicker is more reliable and has a dedicated button for Netflix. On the whole, it's just easier to use. Getting the EZ952 to look its best is a rather arduous task, thanks to an abundance of technical options that often aren't particularly well explained. Some options are incompatible with others, colour gamut and colour remaster for example, but at least the TV alerts you to that when you hover over those settings. There's also a whole advanced settings menu that's unavailable when you're using the normal mode. If you want access, you can put your TV into custom mode, but we'd suggest leaving those options alone unless you're an experienced TV calibrator. When it comes to the look of the TV itself, the Panasonic is decidedly no nonsense. The super slim panel section is pretty much identical to that of the LG B7, rounded edges and all. The stand is pretty basic, and the plastic enclosure that contains the TV's processing components, connections and speakers is much larger than that of the LG, so the thin portion of the chassis looks a little less striking. The overall aesthetic is more professional than sexy, but for some that could be preferable. Feed this TV a 1080p Blu-ray, you get a picture that can easily compete with other OLED TVs. There's a lot that this TV gets right. Colours may not be as punchy as they are elsewhere, but they're natural and realistic. Skin tones are well judged, with natural colour and genuine subtlety. There's a good amount of detail in the 4K picture too, provided the scene is fairly well lit, as the EZ952 doesn't quite have the insight into darkness as its competition. It lacks the dynamism and dimensionality of the Sony KD55A1, but Blu-rays are sharp, detailed and supremely balanced. For you hardcore gamers watching, you should be kept happy by the Panasonic's input lag of just 26 milliseconds. True, the Samsung Q7F and LG B7 are faster, but any score under about 40 milliseconds should be fast enough that you don't actually perceive any delays. Games also look great on the EZ952, with crisp edges and plenty of detail, but if you're playing an HDR game, such as Horizon Zero Dawn, you won't get the extra punch you're expecting. That's because HDR, which stands for High Dynamic Range, a technology that increases the range of colours between black and white in a given image, compared to Standard Dynamic Range or SDR, is a notable area where the EZ952 is a long way behind its competition. And while this TV supports HDR in both HDR10 and hybrid log gamma formats, that's HDR but for broadcast shows, it appears to lack the contrast and brightness necessary to deliver the kind of punch we've come to expect from HDR content. Sunlight and reflections aren't as bright, flames stand out only dimly in a darkened room, and characters blend into the background more than they should. It's not much of an improvement on SDR when it really should be, and that's just not good enough for a TV costing £3,000. The EZ952's edges are a touch softer than other OLEDs too, and combined with the relative lack of punch, the result is landscapes and scenery shots that aren't as three-dimensional. Sonically, it should come as no surprise that we recommend buying a separate sound system for this TV, but sticking with the inbuilt speakers, these give you a performance that's certainly direct, but also sibilant and a tad harsh in the treble. The surround modes, Virtual Surround and Virtual Surround Plus, are decent, adding some greater width and spaciousness of the presentation while boosting the bass and treble, but it also sounds rather artificial. It's worth experimenting with these modes when watching a film or dramatic TV series, but for everyday TV, you're better off just with standard. So, once you get past the labyrinthine setup menus, the EZ952 gives you an SDR picture as good as its competition. Pretty detailed, nicely balanced skin tones, and a solid handle on motion. But HDR is where the future of television lies, and in this regard, the Panasonic is a fair way behind. To read the full review of the Panasonic TX-55EZ952B, head on over to whathifi.com. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button to show your support, and subscribe too. You can also find us on all the social medias. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and send us your hi-fi pictures on Instagram.